I'm David Mays with Health for ADV. I'm going to be covering today the details behind setting up your headset, your phone, your TFT, and your Garmin, either whether you got the Nav 5 or the Nav 6. I think there's a lot of confusion in there, and as a result, it's really hard to get things working the way they're supposed to. When you do, it's really freaking cool. There are some apps that go on the phone that can really give you some advanced features that I think you'll want to take advantage of. So buckle up. We're going to cover a little bit about the background of how the communication is working, why your headset may not be doing what you want, and some of the technologies that just simply you may have to upgrade either your phone, your headset, or something if you want to take advantage of those benefits. So buckle up and let's get going.
All right, so I think this graphic is pretty indicative of why there is serious complexity in getting everything to work properly and why so many things can go wrong. There are a couple of things that you should notice from this graphic. There are a couple of components in this that if they're not up to speed, well, nothing is going to work out the way you want. So let's quickly look at what's going on here. So the TFT, which has access to basically the brain of the bike, including ride information, details of tire pressure, trip data, etc. But now we can use that area basically of the bike for so much more. Now we can manage phone calls, music, navigation, all with the help of your phone and the BMW connected app. Then we have the Garmin Navigator. Now for those of you who don't have a TFT, you can do just about everything that you can do with the TFT. You can do this on the Nav 6. It is the best upgrade to your bike that you can likely get. It opens up music streaming, active radar, real-time traffic, and of course mapping features like tracks and trips and routes. Many of these features require the Garmin SmartLink app that also runs on your phone. Now are we starting to see a pattern? The phone is basically the processing brain and the connection to the world that provides all of this real-time data. So if you have an old phone, you're likely going to be an unhappy camper. Now, part of the challenge with all these connections is the design of Bluetooth, the technology Bluetooth in general. Bluetooth has been with us for the better part of 15 years, but its use has continued to increase as electronics continue to shrink and battery power, particularly LiPo batteries, are allowing for smaller and smaller form factors. Now when Bluetooth was introduced, as with most protocols, they attempted to plan for how they thought technology would be used while still putting restraints and requirements so that there could be easy interconnectivity. Now Bluetooth accomplished this by using what is called profiles. Profiles are different methods of connecting or handshaking so that when two devices communicate, they know the expectations of each other, so they know what services to provide each other. As an example, if you have a phone headset and you connect it to a Navigator, the Navigator knows not to send mapping data or pictures or routes. Instead, it's just going to send sound. Now this is due to the profile that is in use by that headset. So this can get us into trouble depending on how we connect the devices or what versions, and this includes both software and hardware, of the implementation of Bluetooth on those devices that they're using. As with all technologies, change is the only thing that is consistent. The latest Bluetooth available today is 4.2. However, 5 is already in the design process and will likely be here by next year. Here today, gone tomorrow. It's kind of the way it goes. In general, Bluetooth has done an amazing job of maintaining backward compatibility. However, there are some things that simply don't come over depending on the version of Bluetooth being used. As with all protocols, the lowest common denominator between the devices is ultimately how they're going to communicate. So if you have the latest greatest gadget, but it's connecting to a phone that's 3 years old, then your gadget may not give you the expected results because it had to go back and talk to the old phone. I say all that to say this. Primarily, there are two profiles that will be used in our connections on the bike. A2DP, which is the most capable of the setups, providing advanced communication and additional data transfers in addition to just audio. Example would be navigation data, music covers, as in the picture of the cover, and then like next track, previous track, stuff like that. The hands-free protocol is a far simpler protocol and provides, it's really one of the oldest protocols, and it provides, or profiles, and it provides for the most part answer, hang up, and audio. Now when the TFT connects to the SENA, from what I can tell, it uses both HFP, which is the hands-free protocol, as well as the ADU-TP in order to provide the services that you're going to expect, because it's actually doing both stereo communication as well as telephone communication. The nav is going to attempt the same connection, but by us turning off phone calls in the setup, it's going to, in essence, eliminate that HFP protocol. Now, during the negotiation between the devices when pairing, both state what profiles they offer and support, and all possible profiles connected based on that pairing. Depending on how we pair, the devices will determine what profiles they determine are available, which is what causes some of the difficulty I think that many have been having with their pairing. Now, the 30K is not listed in this list, but this is a pretty good list of the SENA Bluetooth headsets. Now the 30K, is, although it's not listed, it has virtually the same features of the 20S with regard to implementing Bluetooth, and it is using the standard of 4.1, except the 30K has 2 Bluetooth radios, allowing it to connect in really a more robust way with an additional number of devices. Now this is useful in the setup that we're doing here, since we are having a live connection to the TFT as well as the Nav 6, and then of course other riders or your passenger or whatever. Now, if you are having difficulty getting all this to work as I described, the likely cause, now assuming your steps are correct, is a limitation of the SENA that you're using, or could be your phone too. I'll cover that in a minute. I have had difficulty getting the SMH10, which is a very common unit that's out there, to successfully connect to all of these devices. In fact, it's just not going to do it. It just doesn't have the gas to connect to both the TFT and the nav at the same time. You connect to one, it's going to disconnect from the other. Basically, it's because it's using version 3 of Bluetooth and it just doesn't support it. Now, by the way, much of this applies to the Cardo Pack Talk, although it does have some different nuances that would need to be dealt with. Now, its implementation of Bluetooth is a bit more limited than the 30K. It's a little more like the 20S in that it uses channels for those multiple connections versus actually 2 radios like the 30K's got. Now, since I haven't really tested the Cardo on my bike, I can't really state how well it works, although it should do as well as the 20S. All right, your phone matters. Now this part is critical and can create a ton of frustration if you're not aware of it. There are a lot of things at play here, from phone processing power to Bluetooth radio version, Bluetooth software implementation, and even the operating system running on your phone can all play a role in how well it will play with others, particularly when connecting to so many devices. Now, one thing is clear. You cannot connect your phone to your SENA and expect all of this setup that I'm going to show you to work. Most people connect their phone to their SENA directly because of the SENA app, which allows them to make changes and stuff like that, and even firmware updates. But by doing so, you eliminate one of those 2 profiles that are available to connect a phone, making it impossible to set up the GPS and the TFT the way I'm going to show you. Plus, you're also going to now have power struggles basically between who's in control, in essence a digital pecking order. Androids are a bit more complicated because depending on the phone you have, the operating system is different compared to, say, a new Galaxy 9 or 10. So the example would be a Galaxy 8 runs Android OS 7 or Nougat, which is kind of weird, whereas the Galaxy 9 runs OS 8, or also called Oreo. And then finally, the Galaxy 10 is reportedly going to be running Tizen, which I don't even know that you can eat that. So it's got different naming conventions, but the reality is you're stuck with whatever that OS is for the most part. They may change that at some point. But to my knowledge, that is not the way it does. It's different updates of that operating system, but not going to a completely different one. So depending on how popular the Android phone still is going to somewhat determine how many updates are still going to be continued to be applied to that phone. Now, iPhones, on the other hand, they basically all run the same version, or they can all run the latest version of their software basically until they're considered out of service or just completely out of date. So you basically get the benefits of all the latest fixes for Bluetooth or, you know, music implementation or whatever, as long as that device is being supported. Now, that said, just because you're running the latest OS does not mean that the radio that is in your phone supports the newer capabilities such as 4.1 or 4.2. Now, the Pixel and other phones are all going to be similar, but I've not really used them a lot in this scenario, so I can't really talk on those. In short, basically, your phone could be your limiting the entire connection. It is truly a partnership between all the devices, and the phone is likely your weakest link if it's outdated. Now, some of these changes can be implemented via firmware updates. If it's 4.0 or 4.1 was already natively supported. Basically, you know, Bluetooth 4.0, 4.1 or 4.2 are extremely important because of the changes in speed. So with regard to the speed, in 4.2 you're looking at 250% faster transfers, 10 times the capacity as far as the capability of the protocol itself. So when you're dealing with this type of data coming across, whether it's map data, radar, traffic, all of that's going to matter, which is one reason that the Nav 5 kind of struggles, in addition to its weaker processor between it and the Nav 6. So it's not just one implementation like Bluetooth. It also has to do with processing power. So anyway, it's possible that your software could be updated to support version 4.2, but it still doesn't actually have the necessary hardware to take advantage of those faster speeds. So in short, you know, the newer the headset or the phone that you've got, the more likelihood you have of having full access to the 4.2 standard. Now, with regard to iPhones, from version 6 up, they have the at least software implementation of 4.2, but again, the 6 is likely not going to be able to implement full advantage of 4.2 just because it came out long before 4.2 was showing up in radios. Now, the radio that is in the TFT is at least 4.1 based on what I found, but it could possibly be that because it is a newer device, that it's probably going to be able to support the 4.2 in full support, which would obviously be able to allow a lot more data to be transferred back and forth to that device. So hopefully with BMW recognizing that Bluetooth is going to be a key factor in what can be done with these devices, hopefully they're going to be putting the latest radios possible in them. All right, now you know why there are complexities and a basic understanding of basically how the underlying technologies work. So now let's discuss a little bit about how our particular devices are going to connect and why. Now, specifically, your TFT needs to use the primary phone pairing on your SENA. So if you don't have a TFT, then the Nav is going to be using that primary phone connection. But assuming that you've got the TFT and you're using a Nav 5 or 6, we're going to connect the headset to the Nav using the secondary phone pairing, which really seems to be working better than the option of GPS pairing, which also is in that menu structure on the SENA. Primarily, I believe, due to the music streaming feature set needs that the GPS, I don't know that it implements fully. Now, this is where your headset, if it's older, you're really going to start running into some limitation issues. If you have one of the older headsets, like the SMH10 or older, you're going to have to probably decide whether you're going to upgrade your headset or Am I just going to connect to just the TFT or just to the nav? And some of that's going to depend on some of the features that you're wanting to access. If you're attempting to do this and follow along on your bike as you watch this, don't do this just yet. There's a particular process that you need to do in a particular order to ensure the highest level of success. So please be patient. I really want to give you a background of this because it's going to matter, because this isn't something that you just do once and forget about it. It's something that anytime something changes, you will likely have to redo some of this this process. Trust me, after you've got the understanding down, it's going to avoid a lot of frustration on the road when something goes wrong or you need to wipe it all and just restart it for some reason. Once you get it down, I do have to tell you that you can wipe it out and reset everything up in about 5 minutes. So it gets really easy. So this is just an example of some apps that are available to us today and why it's worth dealing with all this stuff anyway. So we are in a connected world, and much of the joy that we get from riding these bikes to unknown places is being able to share it with others who are like-minded along the way. Now, there are a lot of ways to do this, but for today, we're only going to focus on 2 apps specifically built around integrating the TFT and the Nav 5 or 6 into your phone and extending that processing power in your phone to those devices. Some other example apps that I use include Rever, which can actually take rides from your BMW Connected app and post them. And it's built into the BMW Connected app to transfer that, which is cool. I'm really hoping that Relive, which is kind of that cool graphics app that kind of shows your route in a 3D view, I'm really hoping that they at some point will work with Rever so that we can do all that through one integrated app, which would be great. Now, I also use the Garmin EarthMate app, which connects to my inReach device, and of course, Basecamp is how we manipulate tracks, trips, etc. So we can share the actual tracks with others or plan our next adventure, whatever. Now, directly from the Navigator, you can also post location to a friend via text, or you can even post your track on Facebook directly through the Navigator. So that may be a feature you are not aware of. But again, today we're only focusing on the 2 primary apps required to make this stuff work. So let's look at those. The Smart Link, Garmin Smart Link, is how the Nav 5 and Nav 6 get information from the outside world, and the BMW Connected app is how the TFT talks to the outside world and gets info back. So those are the 2 icons. That's what they should look like as of today. Now, the BMW Connected app actually went through an icon change, so it was originally a different picture icon. This is the current icon. There's no guarantee that it won't change again. Now, many of you may be getting to this point and going, screw this, I just want to ride. And I get it. And I agree to a level that if you're spending more time talking about riding than riding, you probably need to get some butt time and move on. But before you stop the video and go, I don't need any of this, let's look at a few things that you get by taking the time to figure some of this stuff out. All right? So here are some of the features that are in the Garmin app as it is related to being connected to your Nav 6 or 5. This provides, this is kind of the following list, and it's pretty compelling. So you've got active radar as well as weather reports, so you've got forecast as well. This only kind of semi-works with the Nav 5, and I think a lot of that is because of its processing power limitations as well as the version of Bluetooth that is implemented in the Nav 5. You get live traffic. This is proven to be very accurate with the Nav 6. Can't say that about the Nav 5. It updates, and it saved me a lot of sitting going nowhere time the last time I was coming back from a trip and the interstate had become a parking lot. You can also find parking in cities. So can't say I use this a whole lot, but what it does is basically any parking lots that are registered, they will pop up in the SmartLink app and allow you to, and as well as the Garmin app, and allow you to find parking through that. Foursquare is an app that is kind of integrated into the Garmin app, and what it can do is allow you to type in an address or a restaurant or something like that in your phone, and then when you're connected to the Garmin app, you can actually send that address straight to your Navigator, keeping you from having to manually enter the address, which is actually pretty cool. I've used that quite a few times. It also allows you to kind of do some favorites looking and finding and stuff like that, and kind of save those as favorites in your phone, maybe while you're inside or in your tent or whatever, and you're planning for the next day, you can do some of that on your phone and then turn around and just push those addresses to your nav. Photo live cameras. I've only used this a few times, probably depending on where you live. If you live in an area to where you've got a lot of traffic congestion before you can get out of town, having live photo cameras pop up on your nav can be useful. I would recommend not staring at that too much because you can kind of get lost in the data, and if you're doing that while riding, it can be problematic. You can instant message your family, as I said earlier, through the nav as long as you've got phone service. Now, this is great for road trips, probably not as beneficial if you're off-road or on secondary roads to where you lose cell service. But it does have a follow me feature and stuff like that, so you can actually keep your loved ones in touch with you without having something like an inReach device, as long as you have cell phone service. And that's built within the Garmin unit. Access to your phone contacts for instant address, and you can just send those to the nav directly from your phone, which is pretty cool. And then of course you can save the phone locations that you find on your phone, even if you're not on the bike, for future use. So that's a huge benefit as well.
All right, so now we've kind of covered the features that the Garmin Smart app, Smart Link provides. Now I'm going to just kind of run through that real quickly with you to kind of show you what that looks like on the Navigator. So on the Navigator, you're going to go to View Map, and one of the features that I like the most is the active radar. Now, not only do you get active radar, but you also get weather reports as well. I have modified my system to where my button is actually right there for active radar. And when you do that, what it's now doing is it's downloading, it's pushing. So if you notice right down there is the updating option. So it's now pulling from the internet the data on your phone and then pushing that to your Navigator. Now, once it gives a time period at the bottom, now that means that it has successfully pulled down the weather. So now, it just happens that we're in clear weather right now, but if you go up around St. Louis and Chicago, you'll see some weather there, and it's actually an active, so it's actually moving and it's showing you what's happened in the past. And so it will actually update again, because it only pulls down certain regions based on where you're zoomed in at. And so it'll pull down this again. But now you can actually see that. Now, here's what's cool. So you can zoom in, and as you do, it will actually zoom in and show the weather of that area, specifically where you are. This is proven to be extremely beneficial when you've got some major weather coming through and you're trying to decide, do I just keep going and riding through it, or is it something I need to consider pulling off for? Now, you can also go to apps and go to weather from there. And now this time it's going to go based on your current location, and it is going to pull down whatever the weather forecast is. And so again, very useful. You can click on the day, it'll tell you the times, and then it'll tell you what the precipitation chance and etc. is. Including, it'll do sunrise and sunset, which is also useful. So the second item is the live traffic. So as you can tell here, we've got only 1 minute is what it's recognizing, and it will show this as it pops up. It'll show it, and then you tap it. It will give you how much of the total delay is. You can click on the delay, and now it will tell you where the delay is happening in your route. So then you tap that, and now it's going to show you exactly where around that traffic area that you're going to be faced with. So you can choose to go around that, or you can choose to avoid that. And then by hitting that, it's going to reroute you. It's already saying that the 1 minute, it's not big. This happens to not be big enough deal. So it's just saying, look, you're still on the best route, but I'm going to say avoid it anyway. And now what it's going to do is recalculate avoiding that section of road and then give you a new route. This has actually worked really well, especially when it comes to interstates, because when they start backing up, they tend to back up for a much longer time. And this gives you an option to avoid that without it being too complex while you're riding the motorcycle. All right, and then you've got Foursquare. Now Foursquare, this is on the Smart app, and one of the things that I want to make sure you understand is, if you see that notification there is the little Smart Link app icon, And then also on the GPS, you'll see the SmartLink icon. That means there is a connection between the two. So if you're on your nav and you're not seeing that SmartLink app, there's something going on between the two. All right, so the Foursquare allows you to basically type in anything that you want, including food. There's listed churches or whatever. It's all in there. It's just a database. But here's what's really cool. So if you tap an address, then what you can do, let's say that you're looking for a restaurant to eat. So let's type in burgers. All right, and search. So it gives you all the burgers that are local. I want to go to Five Guys. Now I'm going to send that to the nav. Sending location. The location is about to send to the Garmin. If you notice there, now I'm getting a request. Hey, do you want to go to Five Guys? So you go, yep. Now it's going to reset, or I can add it to my active route. Now it's going to send me to that location. That's a really cool feature, but even better is you can actually type in anything that you want. So I can type in someone's address and send it, or I can copy it from a website, post it into here, search it, find it, and then when I get to the bike, send it, and then I'm gone. It just adds a little bit of convenience. I really like that feature. Photo live cameras, not a huge deal for me. It could easily be for other people, and you can do that straight from the phone or from the main section. You go down to Photo Live, you click on Photo Live, and now what this is doing, I have already programmed in the cameras that I care about, which are basically in this area, and it will show what traffic is on those streets at this moment. I could definitely see for those who live in very congested cities, this could be a very beneficial tool for you. There is a yearly charge. I think it's like $6. All right, so the final thing that I want to cover is when you are actually looking to save locations that you're wanting to go to while you are not close to the bike. And so this is a really useful feature. So you can go and hit Find New Nearby Places. Now these places, they may be in Foursquare, or you may have found them on the internet or whatever. So let's just say that you're using your favorite camping app and looking for a campground, and you find one that you want to go to. So you click on the eye, and so then it's got an address, but it's not like a clickable address. So what you can do, you select it, just the address, and then you hit copy. So now it's in the clipboard. You pop back over to your SmartLink, you type in Find Nearby Places, and you paste it in that section, and then it's going to throw you an address option. At that point, you select the address, boom. Now it's found the park that you're wanting to go to. Click the I button there and hit Send, and now you can see that now we're getting just got a address, and you hit go and start new route. So it's just a matter of finding things, but your other option of finding things quickly and efficiently and then throwing them to the nav. The other option that you've got though is you can save it. So now by saving it, now it's quickly accessible. If you go back and you go to saved, now you get a list of saved locations that you may want to go to at some point. And so at that point, now you just quickly click on it, and you can always just send it to your device. And it works really fast. All right? Cool feature. All right, so that concludes the demo of the Garmin Link. Now let's cover the BMW connected app.
And this is a relatively new app, so it came out when the TFT came out. And the beauty of these apps on your phone is they can continue to update these as they have better ideas, as they get feedback, things like that. And so currently, it's already gone through some pretty nice upgrades from the original. But basically, the BMW app on your phone has all those, it records all of your rides. And those rides can all be merged together. So if you're going on a long trip, every time you start and stop your vehicle, it creates a new ride. And so when you get back, you can actually select all those different rides of that trip, merge them together into one ride, and you can upload them to Rever, which is kind of cool. Of course, you get access to the current data from your bike. So you're inside, you're curious, you don't remember what your gas levels were or whatever. You can pull it up on your phone and it will show you all that type of pertinent data. It also has downloadable maps. Now, this has actually become much better from the first iteration, and I really believe that it will continue to get even better as it goes on. So the maps can be downloaded, which means that you don't have to have cell phone service in order to access the map and have basically follow me directions on your phone. I do have to state that the maps do take up quite a bit of space. So again, it goes back to how capable is your phone. And of course, you want your phone to be waterproof in some way and securely mounted to the bike in a position to where you can actually see the map. By utilizing the connected app, you can actually set for an address. That's when you'll implement the turn-by-turn directions that you'll get directly on the TFT. You get last known location of your bike. So basically for finding it after you park it, I have actually used that one time. I was at Bike Week in Daytona, and we had been walking all over the place. And so it was kind of neat to actually know how far we were from our bike and which parking lot that it was actually hidden in. You can also embed the photos that you take while you're on your ride, and it will link that into your ride report, which is kind of cool. And those go over into Rever. And it has a unique algorithm for winding routing. Now, I don't know how many of you guys use the winding routing that's in the Garmin, but you can say take curvy roads or whatever in the Garmin. Well, this one actually has a throttling to where you can say, you know, I've got this amount of time, so I'm going to throttle it to just be somewhat winding, I guess. Or, you know, I don't really care, I've got all day, you know, curve me up. And it will basically tell you how long of when your expected time to get back is or whatever. I have used this. I'll get out to a certain point and then I'll decide to take a curvy route home. And so I'll set the nav, my Garmin, to be fastest route, and then I'll set this to be winding. And so at any point, I always know if I just decide I need to buzz home, I know how long that's going to take from the nav or from the Garmin. But then if I'm cool and I got time, I can continue to play and use the connected app to provide me those curvy directions. So it's kind of a neat feature. If you don't have a Navigator, then this can be a massive benefit to you, because now you suddenly have a phone that is connected in and can give you turn-by-turn integrated into the bike that you would have not otherwise had.
All right, so now that we've covered a little bit about all the things that you can do with Connected App, now I kind of want to run through it with you real quick. Again, this is a simplified version. I just want to show you a few of the highlights that I think are really cool. All right, so first of all, you want to make sure that you're connected. This should be automatic. Once your phone is connected to the TFT, the Connected App should be working properly. Now, you can test whether it's working properly by clicking on the handlebars on the left-hand side. And at the top, you will see connected. And this is the indicator that you get showing that you have indeed, and it is tiny print, but it does show that you are connected. Now, in addition, obviously, you've got your how much fuel in a percentage, how many miles that you've got left, what your last ride was, how far you are from the nearest gas station, when your next service is due, and then just overall access or overall statistics. Now, this is really nice because you get this whether you're in your hotel room, campsite, tent, whatever, so you can glance at it and go, oh, we're not that far from the next gas station. Really useful. All right, as far as recording rides, go to the road with the mountain icon, and it will show all the different rides that you've done. Now, here's what's really cool. In addition to it recording the ride, if you took pictures with this phone, it will also link those pictures into your ride. And then you can turn around and take those and merge them together. So let's say we wanted to merge these two rides together. You click on that, you hit merge, and it lets you select those two, and then you go, okay, now they're merged into one. And now you can pull up that, it'll show you where you went, and then so you can turn around and save it to Rever. Pretty cool. And it'll also allow you to manage the album, the photo album that goes with it. So you can choose to take some off or whatever. And that one didn't actually have any. So let me click on this one. So again, it shows the route, and then you can click Manage Album. You can delete any pictures that weren't any good, duplicates or whatever. You can kill those. And of course, that was Actually, this was RibFest, so there's all the writing, shows where you took the pictures. Really cool feature. And again, that's integrated into the BMW connected app, but it allows you to send that to Rever as well. So then you can share it with whoever else that you're wanting to deal with. Now, I want to show a little bit of the turn-by-turn directions that you get from the connected app. So the first thing you do is you click on the map icon, and then you search for a location. Now, this location can be somewhere that you just used. So again, that one that I had just copied in earlier, I've got it here. So I just pasted that in, and I'm going to choose Harrison Bay. And now I'm going to say start. Now notice what happens to the screen here. So I'm going to hit start. You also have route options. So this is where you get to control how winding of a route that you want to take. It'll change your ETA, of course. Whether you want to avoid dirt roads or highways, ferries is the only thing I have turned off. And then you can also integrate traffic in there as well. So you can choose to find non-traffic options. All right, so those are my options. Now I'm going to hit start. Now it calculated the route, and so it's now pushed it. So now I start the navigation, and it's going to tell me what to do next. Now, it won't actually take over this screen until you get close to a turn. Now, as soon as I pulled out, it would tell me to turn left at the next turn in my headset, okay? But you can also click down on this, go over to navigation, down again, and it's going to say an 800 feet turn, well, at this point, go straight. But then it will continue to change that. If you miss a turn, or if you miss a direction, or you're in traffic and you don't want to look, if you're in this menu, you can hit the right button, or on your Wonder Wheel, and it will audibly tell you what your next move is. So go straight 800 feet. You can hit the left on the Wonder Wheel, and it will give you the option to either continue guidance or end route guidance. So basically it's a safety in just case you accidentally do it. Again, that's a cool feature, especially for those who don't have a Navigator. But I like to use it even when I have a Navigator and I'm wanting to go somewhere to eat or wanting to do something else, and I've got this complicated route plugged in my Navigator. I'll use the TFT to take me to a restaurant or a filling station, whatever, and then allow the Navigator to just reroute until it's done, until I get back on the route. So that's a real quick overview of what the mapping can do. Now, one thing I did want to show is on the map. Obviously, it shows you get your icon of where you are. These maps can be downloaded, and I would highly recommend downloading them. That does make this a pretty effective map, except based on the sun and your phone, how good it is in the sun. Mine actually works pretty good. I can see it pretty much all the time. And you can also search for addresses, things like that as well. I've found that I can find more on Google Maps or Apple Maps, and then I copy the address and throw it into here. Sometimes the address as far as points of interest are a lot more limited in the connected app than they are in like Google Maps. All right, so that's an overview of the BMW connected app.
Let's now get into how do you do it so that you can have the results that you want. All right, so first of all, updates matter. I can't stress this enough. Every piece of equipment that you've got must be updated to the latest rev, whatever that is, and that includes the bike. It doesn't matter if you just rolled that bike off the showroom floor. Many times the dealerships will fail to run the update because it takes time. And if you're looking at purchasing a new bike, please demand that they update that bike before it rolls off the floor. It's not like a phone where you can update it yourself, regrettably. Let's look at what we've got to update. Now, as of making as of the making of this video, the current rev for the BMW TFT is 11840. If your bike doesn't have at least this version on it, don't even bother doing this stuff until it is updated. Now, one thing to note about firmware updates on the bike, it will wipe out all of your connections. So whatever you had set up before, the bike is now a new brain. So getting this stuff, that's why it's kind of important to kind of get this stuff down because you will have to redo it at some point, especially when your bike ends up with a fresh brain. So SENA updates will also need to be done via the computer since the way that we're going to connect the SENA to the phone is through the bike. So you're not going to use the app for that, and that's just one unfortunate issue with the way that you have to set this up to get it all to work. Making sure you stay up to date with firmware on the SENA is also extremely important. SENA has been updating some major, making some major changes, specifically to the 30K just recently that changed a lot of features. Phone updates are far easier to accomplish and are typically pushed to you, and they're pretty automated. Your Navigator, whether it's a 5 or a 6, will be updated through either Basecamp or the Garmin Express, and it's highly recommended, not only for firmware updates, but also for map updates, which can be really important. I recommend checking for updates once per quarter, as that is when they typically release updated map data. All right, so let's start fresh. So most likely you have tried some sort of connection in the past, and we need to make sure that this attempt isn't going to foul things up before we get started and trying to do what we're going to do now. And this applies to all devices, including your TFT. So first of all, we want to reset the headset from all previous connections. We're going to delete all related past Bluetooth connections from the phone, the TFT, the nav, all of it. And then we're going to reconnect them in a proper order that's going to give you the best bang for the buck. So let's start with the phone. So on the iPhone, you go to Settings, then Bluetooth, tap the icon on the device, and then you need to the little eye icon, the blue eye icon, and then you tap Forget this device. All right, and so that's going to take care, and you do that for every connection that is related to what we're doing here, whether it's the nav, the TFT, the headset, the passenger headset, whatever it is. Now, Android devices have a similar screen that allows you to forget a pairing or remove a pairing from the system. You need to do that on the Android as well. Make sure that any device related to what we're about to do is no longer showing up in that phone. All right, so next is we need to reset your headset to factory defaults. Okay, so resetting the SENA reset is critical. Now be aware, by doing this procedure, you're going to wipe out any specific changes that you made, including like voice recognition being on or off, or audio boost, etc. Now it will also remove any previous pairings that you had with other riders, as well, including your passenger, if you have one. But it's also going to make sure that all this stuff works. So once you've done this and you have everything working on your bike the way you want, simply connect it to a computer and change those settings back to the way that you prefer them. Now all you have to do is turn on the SENA, wait a few seconds, and then hold the phone button for most units, and keep holding it for about 10 seconds. Now with the 10S, you may need to check your manual on what that process is. So anyway, you hold it for 10 seconds and it should come to the point of saying reset headset. Now don't accidentally let go when it says phone pairing, because you've got to go past that and it'll throw you into another menu that says factory reset. Now once it gives you that reset option, tap the jog dial and it's going to say factory reset or something to that effect, and then it's going to automatically shut off. Okay, at this point your headset's clean and it's ready to be reconnected the proper way. Now for the Navigator. You're going to select each device in the Bluetooth settings and then choose unpair device, and you got to repeat that procedure until all the devices that you've kind of been messing with are gone. So you go to settings, choose Bluetooth, select the pair device, scroll to the bottom, unpair the device, and then you got to do that on any devices that you had previously connected. Now finally, you got to do this on the bike. And so you go to settings and then connections and delete all connections. Now this process takes a little bit because the connections take some time to come online. Basically the Bluetooth radio has to wake up and get through all of its boot up procedure. And then once you go in there, the delete all connections takes a little bit of time because it's still trying to connect, and it has to kind of give up before it will allow you to say, okay, whatever, I don't really care, I just want to delete all connections. So give it a little bit of time on that. One thing I want to note here, if you have an older version of the firmware, there were some issues with connections either never coming online or taking an extreme amount of time to come online. Again, if you don't have the latest version on your TFT, don't even bother doing any of this stuff. Okay, pairing order. Now, all your devices are clean. And now it's time to pair them up. Now, this is the pairing order that I have seen seems to work the best. There are reasons why pairing the headset first tends to work best, and much of that's due to the services that get enabled when you add a phone to the mix. Now, you only want one of the devices, either the Nav or the TFT, to accept phone calls. Now, if you've got both, if you have it do both, it might work, but it seems to be problematic, as I've tried it both ways, and I think they kind of fight each other. Now, when you pair the phone after the headset is properly talking to both Nav and TFT, then you can modify how the phone will connect to the Nav so that it does not accept phone calls. Now, during the pairing process of the phone, you will also be asked to do you want to allow contact sharing? Now, you need to say this to the TFT, and no, you need to say no to the Nav. Your phone will ask you the pairing of both devices, and you need to say yes to the TFT and no to the Nav. If you don't have a TFT, then you're going to have your Nav handle all communication, and this step's not necessary. You just say allow, and you go from there, and you get what you get. This way, you're going to be able to answer phone calls, play music, and have your contacts sent to the TFT if you have both devices, or to the Nav if you don't have a TFT. Now, this is where having the Nav 6 is a real blessing, because it's actually powerful enough to handle all of that. The Nav 5, again, it seems to struggle, and both because of the version of Bluetooth that it's using, and as well as its processing power, it just doesn't have quite the power. And of course, it doesn't even support streaming music anyway, so that's another deal. Finally, you pair the SENA with a passenger or your riding buddy. Now, do not pair the passenger SENA through the TFT. I have found absolutely no benefit of doing this. Perhaps the intercom functionality that I just assumed would work, apparently maybe that's something that only works with the BMW System 7 unit, but I have not found it to work with the SENA. So if you connect, in other words, connect both of the SENAs to the driver and the passenger, that doesn't give you intercom. So you're going to intercom between those two just like you would if they were a riding buddy that was on a separate bike. I would highly recommend the 30K scenario with your passenger if you are wanting to share music, because it has the ability to do that, and I've not found that capability with the 20S.
All right, so I've gone through all the different methods that you need to do to reset, to wipe your equipment out in the event that you've attempted to do connections in the past. Now I'm just going to kind of run through it real fast on showing you exactly how to do it. One thing I want to show you with the headset is I want to give you audio on what that actually sounds like when it says it. So again, what I'm doing is I am holding the back button, the phone button, for 10 seconds.
Phone pairing.
Get the phone pairing option.
Factory reset.
And then you get the factory reset option. Tap the jog dial.
Goodbye.
And it just confirmed the reset, and it hung up. Okay, so now it's turned off. So that wiped out the headset. So now we're going to go through, and now we're going to wipe out the phone. So you go into Settings, Bluetooth, and we see the Navigator, and we're going to say forget the device. All right, if you notice there, Bluetooth disconnected. And then we're going to go down to the ICC6.5in, very intuitive naming convention. And we're going to go to forget this device. Now this is the TFT, of course. So forget device. Takes a little while to disconnect, and now it's gone. If you notice now, the navigation, media, telephone have all gone dead. All right, so now the phone is clean, the headset is clean. Now it is time to clean the Navigator. The order of these that you forget them is irrelevant. All right, so we're going to click on phone, scroll down to the bottom, unpair device, yes. That one's gone. Now we're going to kill the headset from it, unpair device, yes. So now that's clean. And then the final is going on the TFT, go down to Settings, Connections, Mobile Device. Actually, you don't have to do that. You can go down to Delete All Connections. So that's just going to wipe everything out, which is what we want to do. So it will show what connections that you have, and then you're going to find that you can kill them all, or you can kill one at a time. So I'm just going to kill them all. Boom. Toast. All right, so now we get to start fresh. All right, now that we've got everything reset, now it's time to pair all of your devices. So the first thing that we're going to do is, again, we had turned the SENA turned itself off when it got reset to factory defaults. So we're going to turn that back on. And the first part, you're going to also, on the TFT, you're going to go down to Settings, and then Connections, and then Mobile Rider's Helmet. All right, so now we're going to push and hold the phone button on the headset, and you're going to listen for this.
Phone pairing.
So phone pairing. At this point, you do rider helmet, pair knee rider helmet. It finds the 30K. You pair with it. Boom, paired. All right, one down. Now we're going to do the same thing to the Navigator. So we're going to do Bluetooth. Now, this time, we're going to push and hold the jog dial.
Intercom pairing.
Intercom pairing, you release, and you tap the phone button.
Pairing.
And then you tap the phone button. That gives you second phone pairing. At this point, you scan for devices. And your 30K shows up. Click on the 30K, hit OK. Always tap these as fast as you can. You don't really want it to delay very much. Now you're seeing that it's both connected for media as well as headset. So that's good. The next step is to pair the phone. So now we're going to pair the phone first to your TFT. All right, so mobile device. Go into the pair mobile device. It sees the iPhone. Confirm, hit pair, confirm, allow. You do all these very quickly. This typically ensures that it's going to be a successful pairing and that your contacts are also going to come over. Okay? So now you see in the TFT, iPhone is paired. Now it's time to do it on the Navigator. So again, we're going to go to you want to make sure that your Navigator is discoverable. That's what's going to allow it to show up down here on the phone. Sometimes you have to actually go out and go back into Bluetooth for it to look for new devices. There it is. So there's the BMW Navigator. So now we're going to click on the Navigator on the phone this time. The last time I think you have to initiate that from the other. I'm going to hit pair, hit OK, yes, don't allow, and now I'm connected. Now, one final step is to take on iPhone. It's still connecting. And you turn that off, and you make sure these are turned on. Okay? So now, if you notice, the icon for phones is not working. Your icon for SmartLink is on. You got media, and you've got headset. What that means is at this point now, if you go through the menus, your second menu over will be media, and pairing is complete. So about, what, 4 to 5 minutes, and I was also trying to show you at the same time. Not bad.
Like I said before, this pairing order will likely work for most bikes out there, not just the BMW setup. But there could be some differences in the application, obviously, of the Bluetooth module and how it communicates with each of the different devices. The core of how they talk, however, is still the same as it's based on Bluetooth standards. You know, with the 750 coming out, the 850 coming out, the 1250, and of course even the 2018 1200, all these bikes are all utilizing the TFT technology, and the Nav 6 will become ubiquitous among new bikes. So this technology is going to be pretty important for any of those, not just a GSA like mine. Some other possible issues that you might encounter. Number one, make sure you're not in a technology crowded area when you perform pairing, and this might actually include your neighborhood. Now, the reason for this is Bluetooth operates on the same frequency band that most Wi-Fi does. So the 2.4 gigahertz range is what Wi-Fi, or at least most Wi-Fi, uses, and therefore it's a more crowded, the more crowded the airspace is, the more restrictive or perhaps poor frequency selection that the two devices are going to be able to utilize in order to make an attempt to find a frequency that's available. Now, what we find with this is sometimes they in essence get squeezed, and there's so much interference in the other frequencies that they bleed over, and your connection just never is real good. If you get a bad pairing, number two, you'll likely know it pretty early. So it's gonna you're gonna hear cracking sounds, or the music doesn't pull over properly, or don't be afraid to wipe all of it out and start over. And again, once you kind of do this a few times, it gets really, really easy. Number three, if you're contemplating replacing your headset, but you're concerned that your phone might also be out of date, I recommend borrowing someone else's headset that has the one that you're looking to buy, and see and go through the connecting process and see if that does what you want, because this is going to give you some assurance that are you replacing the right thing, because it could very well easily be your phone that's the problem, or maybe vice versa. Number four, pairing speed matters with the phone. Now, what I mean by that is don't let the dialogues that pop up on your phone, as well as the TFT or the Nav, sit for very long on either device, because when it asks you for things like, do you want to allow contacts, do your best to click those very quickly on both sides. And it seems like there's a lot going on, you know, when you do this, and it all kind of happens rapidly. But that's going to apply both to the Nav side, the TFT, as well as the phone side. I've noticed that it tends to give up pretty quickly, and what happens is it seems to still pair, but you kind of have weird results, like your contacts don't come over, or you're missing playlist, or stuff like that. So it can be kind of squirrely. If you've got a Nav 5, number 5, if you've got a Nav 5 and you've got a standard gauge bike, and you've been considering jumping to the Nav 6, but you don't know if it's worth it or not, the answer is most likely it is worth it. So again, what you're getting from that is you get active weather, you get streaming of your music that you can control with your gloves, you get live traffic, and all the other things that we've referenced. It is a lot cheaper to do that scenario than rolling into a new bike, and the Nav 6 is relatively new, so it'll be around for several years to come. And so if you're kind of in that, I've got a bike, but I'm probably going to keep it another 2 or 3 years, you're probably good with the Nav 6 to carry that over to your next bike. All right, I think that's about it. Thanks for watching this video, and I hope it leads you to benefit from at least some of the technology that these bikes have to offer. If you have any health goals that you are looking to achieve and you'd like a natural approach, feel free to reach out to me on healthforadv.com. Until next time, ride on.